Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, the Rockets down in 7 games. Does the loss affect their pursuit of Kevin Durant as the leverage game continues? Next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Tuesday. Don't forget Locked On Suns, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here, each and every day. Today's episode, folks, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. More from FanDuel later on in the show, as well as some details on Devin Booker's looming contract extension and what we want to see from the big press conference that is scheduled for Tuesday afternoon. Joining me to break it all down, as always, from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling? Ben Garcia.
All right. Not loving that you're once again sporting your San Diego Padres on the day of a Serpientes Jersey City Connect reveal, but it's okay. Listen, I'll get over it. Sometimes those teams maybe
I think if there's anything D-backs fans can feel good about, it's the fact that their jerseys are better than the Padres, regardless of what the standings say. So
all right. Well, then we got to move on.
Who could argue that? Dark, monochromatic brown? I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Padres are cute out there. I can admit things, but the standings also are there, 22 and 11, 18 and 16. I'll just tell you what's going on, but it's fine.
All right.
Let's get into the NBA side of things. All right, Ben. We had a Game 7 that you and I both watched on Sunday evening where the Houston Rockets lost on their home court to the Golden State Warriors, upset in that 2-7 matchup that I believe many Valley sports fans were paying very close attention to, because Houston has always been, since the deadline, and even before that when they acquired 3 different Suns first-round picks, have been kind of right there off to the side as the looming threat to eventually get Kevin Durant. And now that the Suns are ready to get rid of Kevin Durant, they make sense as a natural trade partner. So we've talked a lot about the reports and rumors that have come up as the offseason has begun, Ben, but just seeing this team for 7 games in their first postseason experience, what did you think? And do you feel like the decision makers over there are going to be more desperate for Durant after what just happened?
Short answer, yes. Listen, the Rockets are in a great place to be. It was in a place where the Suns were back in 2020, 2021, when they're making their run. The Suns obviously made it further, but they've got picks. They've got a plethora of things that they can toy with. And the Rockets are in a position the Suns were in 2022. They have all these things that they can push into the table, but you need to strategically figure out what player you want to do that to. Not that Kevin Durant was bad, but maybe the Suns put too much in the middle. And the Rockets are kind of learning from maybe the Suns' mistakes, but man, I don't know how you watch that game and not think to yourself if you're the Houston Rockets, damn, we could have really used Kevin Durant. I know they love to bring up his age and they want to, take him away and get a snack pack and a ham sandwich in return for him. But come on,
use
man.
That line every day. It's funny. I could set a timer and we'll get to the ham sandwich reference. I should have it.
Well, listen, I can get a little bit more grueling if you want a bleep sandwich, but I can't curse on this show. I
don't want to waste time reacting to what some people who like the Rockets on social media are arguing we don't know what the deal would look like. We just have to say that. We have no idea at all. We're not nearly far enough into we know what it could look like.
There you go.
Because we have websites that tell us information about how much different players make, but we don't know anything concretely about what Rafael Stone in Houston, Brian Gregory here, Matt Ishbia, Tillman Fertitta, any of the people who would actually be involved. Heck, Rich Kleiman, Kevin Durant. We don't know what anyone thinks about this. It's all hypothetical. So I think all we have to go off of is what other contenders and candidates and suitors there might be for Durant that might create more of a bidding war, how desperate the Rockets might be, and how they might value different players as they construct a package. And so I guess to me, Ben, there's a difference between watching those games, and any reasonable person would be able to watch it and say, man, they'd be better if they had Kevin Durant. I mean, most teams would say that. I could say that about the Celtics right now. Hey, it'd be nice if you had Kevin Durant. Okay. But what are you giving up, and how desperate are you to go out and actually do that? And that's not even to mention the looming Giannis Antetokounmpo availability that we've already talked about could affect everything. So I would, if we want to just use that Suns comparison, which I know you weren't saying it's exactly identical, but it's actually really far from identical, which I think is why if you're a Rockets fan or somebody involved running the Rockets, you might be more willing to play things patiently. They have way more than the Suns ever had in terms of assets.
Yeah.
They have
for sure
more young players on the roster right now than that Suns team did. They have way more picks and better picks upcoming. The Suns only had their own. And they have players who didn't even make an impact this season, like a Cam Whitmore, and more importantly, like a Reed Shepherd, who was just the 3rd overall pick this most recent season, who didn't even play a lick this year and could be the type of guy, when you watch how valuable Fred VanVleet was for them, who just steps in and ascends into that role over the next 2-3 seasons and becomes that scoring burst that they really need. So I think the Rockets would be better with Kevin Durant. I am sure that there is a price that they would pay to bring him into the door, but I don't subscribe to the idea that the Rockets are desperate or are going to be paying hand over foot in order to bring Durant into the building. And that means the price of what they're going to pay is probably lower to switch from Rockets fans to Suns fans. The price that the Rockets are going to pay, I think, is much lower than maybe the average Suns fan might be thinking. And it's not going to be, we're begging you for Kevin Durant. That's not what's happening.
No, they're not in that position. But I think what you saw is, at least for me, man, outside of Amen Thompson, I do feel like the Rockets kind of topped out of what they are. They were the 2 seed. They should have beat the Warriors if they could hit literally any late game shots in some of these games. And if they played the Timberwolves next round, let's say that they did advance, they won game 7. I'm not taking the Rockets to beat the Timberwolves in that game. So I know that they can get older and they can get better. And Amen Thompson is obviously going to ascend into conversations of potentially one day being a superstar. But Şengün got limited to a 34-year-old Draymond Green in that game 7 as well. Is he closer to a 3 than maybe he is a 1? Maybe.
Yeah,
but
those
those are the types of things
I feel like what I'm hearing from you is like making a case for why Kevin Durant would help the team, not making the case for why this trade is going to happen. Right? Because we just you said it. They are going to get older and better. The primary, I mean, Şengün is 22, Amen Thompson is 22, Jabari Smith is 21, Reed Shepherd's 20, heck, even Jalen Green, who people are, making
23.
fun of and trolling, he's 22 years old. So, I mean, that's why I make the distinction of like, they're even younger. The better comparison to me, Ben, is the Thunder, who did exactly what Suns fans could be worried Houston might do, and stood pat the entire time. For 2 seasons now, they made the play-in, they got bounced. They made the second round, they got bounced. They didn't rush into anything. They let their guys mature and get better. They paid them when their contracts came up. Now they're the favorites to win the championship, or at least make the finals. That's the Houston comp, if I'm making a Houston comp. And that team, Thunder, they didn't do anything.
Yeah,
let alone a 37-year-old.
Yeah, my point is I watched Eason and Jabari Smith last night play a combined 30 minutes, and those are the type of guys I'd be targeting in a Durant trade. If Jabari Smith and Eason aren't there, and you substitute those guys out for Kevin Durant, it doesn't mean you're getting Dylan Brooks for a salary cap filler. There could always be a third team that makes the money work. We're just talking about the core of a trade. I think the Suns earned a little bit more leverage last night in the Rockets, saying, listen, man, run it back again next year. But Eason and Jabari Smith are not going to elevate now into stars or superstars. These are blue chip role players that you have coined yourself that I think you saw last night didn't help with their ability to win this game. Jabari Smith Jr. with 3 points and Eason last night with 5 points. They played 8 guys last night. They clearly weren't that important when the game got down in the depths. I don't think it's crazy to say the Suns earned a little bit of leverage last night because you could be still have, because we're not asking for 5 picks, or I'm not. One first round pick, our first round pick back this year, Eason and Jabari Smith, and then find some salary cap filler literally with any other team, and we can figure out. It ain't that complicated. And so when you go to that aspect, you're not gutting your team. You want Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're gutting your team. And if that's what you want to do, then go and do it and don't learn from the Suns' mistakes. But you can still have this long window and all these picks, still going to have the Suns picks as well, not all of them, but still have, I think, kind of 2 more. And you still have assets to trade later on. And you give yourself a chance to win now. Like that, I think, is the best ploy for the Rockets. But if you want to go get Giannis, man, give up Thompson, give up Brooks, give up Jabari. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I don't know I'm not talking about Giannis. I'm saying I think the most logical path for them is just to stand pat, if I'm being honest. The Giannis thing only makes sense because it's a little bit closer to the age range,
30.
but even he's still 30. So that's not exactly like a young guy either. So, I mean, I think standing pat might be totally logical, and that's what you're seeing from like Jake Fisher today, who is talking about giving up assets of any kind for a 36-year-old. And like, okay, I understand your asking price of what you just laid out there is pretty low, but they could also just keep the Suns pick this year and draft somebody. Like it's not nothing just because it's not the best stuff.
Yeah, but
right?
how many? But they already didn't play. They already didn't play Reed Shepherd this year. You just said that. So they're gonna insert this guy in next year. They're gonna wait a year. Like, I think there's a difference between being aggressive and reckless. A Kevin Durant acquisition is aggressive. It's not reckless. Giannis,
I hear you.
That's my point. And I think last night the Suns got at least a little bit more leverage.
Yeah, and that's fair. I just think to go into what I do think rather than just what I don't think, which is that I don't think the Rockets are maybe as aggressive of a suitor as maybe we've been thinking that they're going to be. I do think that teams who are more, because it's not just about, we'll trade Jabari Smith in for Kevin Durant. Your whole team is revolving around Kevin Durant at that point. It's not like it's Kevin Durant. We've seen from a style standpoint on the court and a personality and a media attention standpoint. It's not just like, heck, just bring him in here. We'll see. Like, no, it's a real big decision to do that. I think a team like the Knicks or the Heat even, who have more veteran players, who have a little bit more pressure to win now, rather than this upward trajectory, they might be more in the plateau, or, Miami could be worrying about a dip, or even Dallas. Like, to me, those teams, I think, make a little bit more sense because they do have that type of urgency to maybe go out and be aggressive versus a team like this where, in theory, it makes sense, but you could also tell me Reed Shepherd averages 18 a game next year and looks pretty promising, and then we're going, oh, wow, there's their offense. The Knicks don't have a solution like that waiting in the wings. They got to go get it. So that's my point. Let's get to the other rumor report that came out today from Brian Windhorst and Tim McMahon over on the Hoop Collective podcast from ESPN regarding Devin Booker, the other star of this team, and the extension that's waiting in the wings for him this summer. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off, as well as live throughout the game. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. All right, Tuesday baseball action. The Braves are hosting the Reds with Chris Sale on the mound, minus 230. The Royals with Seth Lugo on the mound hosting the White Sox, also minus 230. Those are nice ones to just cash in that bonus bet money with the first win. Just put $5 on each of those games. If the big favorite wins, it's cash right to your account. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com. Place that first $5 bet. If it wins, that's $200 in bonus bets straight to your account. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Ben, let's keep it rolling. So we talked about Kevin Durant. The Phoenix Suns' other superstar, Devin Booker, has business of his own to attend to this summer as he is eligible for a 2-year, $150 million contract extension. We talked before about the way that those extension talks can kind of be a symbolic, like a vibe check between the franchise and a star player. Booker does have 3 years on his deal after this one, so this would put it at 5. But money is money, and Brian Windhorst said that he believes the Suns are willing to offer it, which we knew, but he added that he believes Booker would be willing to sign it. Does that surprise you at all?
It surprises me that no one on that podcast, when I was listening to it, said, well, he wants to see what the Suns need to build. Like, I still think that's a thing. And it's really nice to be able to hear that it still feels like Devin Booker is going to sign here. And like, that's what we needed to see, because you and I just talked about yesterday about like, hey, what if this goes awry and Booker doesn't want to be here? The only thing that worries me is that word willing. If they were very sure that he was going to sign it, they'd say, oh, he's going to sign that. But everyone was like cautiously like, yeah, he's willing to. And it leads me to believe again that maybe Booker wants to wait it out this offseason, have total control of what he can do next year. Because if he doesn't sign an extension this year, that puts him at the end of next year, 2 years left on his deal. That makes his value significantly less than if he had 5 years left on his deal. It's not just important for Booker to want to be here. It's important the Suns to get pen to paper, because if he doesn't sign that, you're talking about next year when you're probably talking about potentially trading him if things go bad. You're talking about a superstar who can really pick where he wants to go, and 2 years left on his deal, not 5 or 4, I guess it would be at that point. But that's the biggest thing for me. Just a little hesitancy with the word willing, but overall it does feel like he's here for the long haul. And it was funny because McMahon even said, he said, he's 10 toes down in Phoenix, just like how Damian Lillard was in Portland. So it leads me to believe, man, through thick and thin, Booker's going to be here. Your reaction, surprised, or were you like, yeah, he's always going to sign here?
Not surprised, just because it felt like the comments throughout the offseason had been leading in that direction. I will point out that there was a story that Dwayne Rankin had published earlier in the offseason that we didn't really talk about here on the podcast because it was sort of like halfway committing. But he said, I haven't thought about it on April 3rd. He said Booker said it's a great situation to be in, longevity in this league. Every year you can get, somebody wants you for an extra year or two. That's a pleasure to hear. You never know when the game is going to stop. So just sort of a non-answer there, but it would be great if that was put there, which, to me leads toward most likely yes. And I do think the most important part of it is the symbolism for now. Once if he ever were to ask out, then yeah, it becomes more relevant. If he maybe didn't take it, then that kind of goes pretty quickly from symbolism to, all right, is he upset? But for now, it's just an olive branch more so than anything else. The part of it that I want to just get on the record about, though, Ben, is I would offer Devin Booker an extension, and when he signs it, I will say it's good that they got it done. He's well on his way, if not there already, to being the greatest Sun ever. I have watched almost every game he's ever played. I love to watch him. I think he's a great member of the community. He's really embraced the Valley, even when he had no reason to. Like, he's a legend here forever, no matter if he ends up somewhere else or not. That being said, the end of that extension will be an overpay and a bad contract. Like, that's just the reality of where these things are. And so
$75 a year.
$75 million a year. And I people like to really turn up their noses at that. It's a percentage of the cap. It's the same type of extension that somebody like, Durant would have signed, but because it's so far into the future and the cap is going to continue to go up with these new TV deals and everything else, It's just a lot more money, but it's still the same percentage of the cap. That being said, you're talking about Booker in 2028 will be what? 32?
30?
So
he's 28 now. You're right, 32.
he'll be 32
you're
and
right.
it'll be starting then. So that's his age 32 and age 33 season. You're probably talking about a slightly declining version of a player who teeters on top 5, top 10, top 15, depending on the season. This year didn't even make All-NBA most likely. So very few players in the league and fewer as this new CBA years go by are really valuable enough to give them that. And I'm not positive Booker will be. And so it's just, it has to be out there. We have to be honest that could get hairy. But right now, with how precarious the Suns situation is, you got to just get that commitment from Book and extend that olive branch, because the alternative is it's even bleaker. You can't afford to go in that direction.
Do you want to know why it doesn't bother me and I don't really care that it is a massive overpay for Devin Booker at $75 million a year? It's because I don't live in La La Land, and I don't think Devin Booker finishes that contract in Phoenix. It's not that I don't want him to.
Yeah.
But at the state of the Phoenix Suns, I'm more looking at this contract. I don't want to trade Booker. I do not want to trade him. But I'm looking at the state of the Phoenix Suns and the things that have kind of percolated over the last couple of years. Is it more likely he's here at the end of that contract, 31, 32, or 32, 33 season? I would lean towards no. And so it's more important for me to get the pen to paper, because next year it shoots his value through the roof as long as he's still a top 20 player in the NBA.
It shoots his value through the roof to have the years of control. Commitment. But I would wonder, let's just imagine a world where Booker asks out next year. So at that point in time, if he signs the extension right now, and then next summer things go awry and he just says, I'm sorry, I gave it my all, I just don't feel good about this, you'd be talking about $268 million in guaranteed money. If he asked out the next summer, you'd be talking about $210 million in guaranteed money. I'm not positive a team is necessarily. It depends. We're in full hypothetical mode here, but I do think there's also a world where another team could be like, "Ooh, that's a little bit of a problem." It's nice to have Booker under contract for 4 years or whatever it might be, but at that amount of money, you and I are saying right now it's going to be an overpay. You don't think GM X is going to know the same thing when the time comes? So it's going to be fascinating to see how it ages, but I think we're both on the same page that it's just the cost of doing business right now. It's just the cost. It's
100%. Like, you're just going to pay him. This really quickly on your last point of like other GMs that think it's a bad deal. If you're the Houston Rockets next year and you stand pat with what you have like on your team, you're not looking 4 years from now when Devin Booker's going to be paying $75 million. You're looking to win a championship now. So if you win a championship, or at least you're competing for a championship, you'll worry about the can that you got to kick down the road in 32, 33 seasons, or 32-year-old, 33-year-old seasons. I don't think it's as big of a deal because it's still a little bit down the road, and teams will be competing while he's still in his prime. So Step A is get pen to paper. Step 2 is get Devin Booker back to being a top 20 NBA player next year consistently, to where his value is still high. And if the Suns are great and everything's great, awesome. If not, he's great, but you could still move him and you'll get a haul for him. And it's all about the commitment, but you're right. I don't know. There's maybe 3 players in the NBA, like just on its own, worth $75 million a year. Booker's not there, but it's the cost of doing business.
Worth these 30+% of the cap maxes, right? That's that territory that gets to be really hairy. Like, even the Celtics can't really afford to have 2 of those guys.
They're going to cut money.
Exactly. So if you can't have 2 of those guys, the only one you have has to be good enough single-handedly to lift you into title contention. That's the type of territory Booker would have to be in to be earning that at age 32, 33, 34. That's just tough to ask of anybody, and it will eventually factor in, but that's a long way down the line. The bottom line is the Suns have to get better young talent in the door so that paying him doesn't burn them as badly as the big three's salaries have the past couple years. The man to do that job will be Brian Gregory. We're going to hear from him tomorrow. Ben and I are going to give you what we're looking for. I mean, drop in the comments what you're looking for, but we'll get there next. All right, let's close it out, Ben. We have Brian Gregory, the new general manager of the Phoenix Suns, speaking Tuesday afternoon at 3:30 Arizona time. We will be there. We will have an episode for you later in the evening, folks, but we're going to just air out some of what we want to hear from him. And we don't know, I believe, as far as I saw, if, it just says Brian Gregory. So I believe no Ishbia speaking tomorrow. What do you want to hear from him, given that it might just be this one guy up there answering all of our crazy questions?
I'm going to be honest with you. I just assume Ishbia would be there. I mean, let's call it what it is. If he's not there, I will be frustrated. At least be there. I mean, I want you to answer questions. I'm going to be annoyed that you don't answer any questions, because the biggest thing that you were puffing your chest out about at the last press conference was like, no other owners are doing this. I'm here taking the arrows. Like, okay, we'll take the arrows for a hire that is largely unpopular amongst everyone, really. You talk about that Hoops Collective podcast. They barely know who the guy was. And that's Windhorst and Shelburne and McMahon. Like, these are prominent NBA writers. As far as Gregory, and it would make sense that maybe he's the only one speaking. I just need to hear a plan. Because over the past couple of press conferences, whether the ones that I've been at or the ones that I have not been at, it's always been a lot of sidestepping questions, not a clear plan of what this team wants to do. Tell me what you want to do. Tell me what you want to see in the next coach. And for the love of God, match what your words say to your actions. Because Ishbia talked about change. We didn't really get a lot of change. We just got different faces. And now it's the same thing here. I want to see your vision for this team. You talked about before, like Ishbia was like, this team, you're going to say, dang, they lost, but they played a Phoenix Suns brand of basketball. Gregory, please tell me what that Phoenix Suns brand of basketball looks like. So that's what I would like to hear. And really, basically, that's all I want to hear.
Putting details to the kind of vagueness that we heard from Ishbia, right? Because I said it, to me, it was a LinkedIn job posting of a press conference, right? With Ishbia, where it's like, here's the general idea of what I want. I need someone who's going to make it happen for me. And now he's decided this is the guy to make it happen. So inexperience be damned. Brian Gregory has to tell us what that's going to be. So I agree with that. I would say from my standpoint, another big thing is what are his thoughts on his own lack of experience? And how does he plan to compensate for that? Because, of course, I doubt he is going to be so harsh on himself as like we've been. But at the same time, he has to be some level of self-aware to be able to know, like, I've never negotiated a trade with a GM of a professional sports team. I've never, run a scouting department or, hired a coach, like a head coach. He's hired a bunch of staff, so maybe that's something he actually is a little bit in the realm of, but he's never had to go through a bunch of really highly qualified NBA level coaches and pick the best one for a roster that we don't even know what it's going to look like. Like, these are all hard things. He's never done any of them. He's never even come close. So what is he, is he going to, hey, I know a bunch of people around the NBA. I've been calling them a bunch. Or Matt has given me the leeway if there's, I could bring in another assistant GM and we expect to do that soon, or an advisor, or this, whatever. I mean, there's a million ways it could go, but like you can't ignore that reality. This guy just doesn't have the chops that other types of candidates would have. So what are you going to do about it?
Literally any other candidate. Literally any other Joe Schmo candidate would have the basic qualifications, whether good or bad. And so that's a good point. I was kind of debating which one I would want to hear more of. But I would like to hear him. Honestly, I don't really want to hear that from him. I would like to hear that from Ishbia. Like, he's going to say the same thing I'd say. Like, yeah, I'm inexperienced, but I believe what I can do. I've had success elsewhere. I would love to, we probably won't hear from Ishbia, but I would love to hear from Ishbia saying, hey, I hired this guy because of X, Y, and Z. And I just want to see him try to dance around that question when he can't say, well, you look at his resume, because we'd say, what resume? So that as well, clarity on how this happened, where it transpired, how he feels like this 1 year of NBA experience he's going to take into this next year. I assume it's going to be pretty quick in terms of press conference feels, but
well, you talk about
I also would no continue.
When you talk about vagueness, like there's no more hypotheticals when it comes to, during the season, after the deadline, it was like, well, we're not going to talk about the Durant situation. We're just focused on putting our heads down and competing. Then it was, well, there's going to be change coming. We'll have to evaluate everything. We'll see. Now we're talking to the guy who's going to be making the decisions. Now, obviously, he's not going to show his hand and say, yeah, we're trading Kevin Durant in exactly 2 weeks to the Rockets. But, like, at the same time, like, we heard from Tim McMahon in that right at the end of the season piece, like, Rich Kleiman is expected to meet with the Suns people. Does he have anything to say about that type of situation? What can you tell us about the conversations with Brad? Do you get the sense that he would be willing to waive his no trade clause? We can at least finally be specific rather than operating in hedge land, which is where we've been with a lot of these comments and press conferences dating all the way back to February when the whole team blew up because they tried to trade the best player behind his back.
Yeah, my last point on this would be, I would love to know if he's spoken with Booker, if him and Booker are in lockstep of what the team needs to do, what a Durant trade would look like. Obviously, you're not going to get the specifics on like, oh yeah, Eason, Jabari Smith, but like, have they spoken? Are they in alignment? Does Booker approve of you? Does he like you? Because a lot of that matters. And I know some of that stuff.
Well, the real thing would be kind of like we were talking about yesterday. It would be it would be good to know what their conversations have been like since he took the job. I agree. It would be even better for me to know what their relationship has been like during this past year or two that he's been around the Suns, right? Because that would if he says, I look forward to getting to know Book better, well, then that tells us they didn't really have a relationship. If he says, it's been really great to get to know Book over the past 2 years, he knows so much about the Valley and the connection he has with the fan base has been awesome to see, and he and I have talked basketball a bunch, we really value the same things in a player, then okay, we're kind of starting to cook with oil a little bit, but I don't know. Could go a bunch of different directions because we just know nothing about this guy.
Let's really quickly, let's just 24 hours into the future. What time is it right now? Basically 24 hours in the future. How do you think we're reacting to that press conference? Do you think we're saying, oh God, we got a bunch of another vague answers and nonsense?
Probably that.
Oh my God.
But we'll see. If he's Mr. Experienced leader, then like one thing he should be good at doing is talking through stuff like this, right? I mean, he's a close to 60-year-old guy. He's been in a million press conferences. Like this shouldn't be hard for him. So I would hope he could talk, but I think my answer is that he's going to be vague, if I'm being honest.
I probably agree with you. I'm manifesting that that's not the case because I want off the ride that is Phoenix Suns, just randomness. Just you really don't know what's coming next. And that's one of the worst things you can have, man. You want some certainty in your organization. It doesn't have to all be planned out. I'm excited to hear from him. I will be open-ended. I want to be bought in. But I don't know how much more buy-in than I have with this guy. So we'll see.
Well, you know what? One more thing we might be talking about before long is the same conversation we had in the first segment about the Rockets' level of desperation and aggressiveness with the New York Knickerbockers. They are down 17 in the third quarter of Game 1, Ben, as we've been recording. And that series might not last all that long, and they might be in a...
Well, wait a second. I was told they have Mikal Bridges. They should be winning. Oh, that's weird. Oh, my God. They're getting dismantled.
Yeah,
which
they were
is
down
really
20,
good.
and then they hit a 3 right as I was about to say 20, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And say
All right, well,
17,
Mikal
but
Bridges, 2 for 9 so far, 5 points. Yeah, we definitely need him back.
that'll wrap us up. Hit follow or subscribe if you have not already. We'll have our reactions to the Brian Gregory press conference tomorrow evening and much more content throughout the week as the coaching search and everything else heats up. Keep it right here. Enjoy your Tuesday. We'll catch you next time.